Shadowsun here. Welcome back to my channel. So this is going to be another blindness video similar to all the other videos in the playlist. If you're interested in watching the other video that I talk about Braille, and I discuss how I use Braille for different parts of my practice, such as writing spells. I don't get into like how I actually do it, like demoing it or anything, but I do kind of discuss it in another topic. Feel free to watch the previous video on the channel and check out the playlist linked below. So in this video, I want to talk more about general things, just two common things that I get a lot of the time, and this will all correlate back to my practice, and I mentioned all of these in the blog post as well. So please check out the blog post below. So the first point is language, and a lot of times people think that they need to change the language they use when talking to somebody who's blind or visually impaired, and you really don't. Oftentimes you will find that most people with who are blind or visually impaired know what's going on, even if they've never like fully seen before. In my case, I have an idea of most visual things, and as such, you can use the words like watch or see. So I mentioned in the blog post how often a lot of people like to feel bad for using the word blind, or feel bad for using the words like watch or see, and they try to change it around, and honestly it just feels really awkward. Like, there's no need for you to do that. You don't have to do that with anybody. Most people will know. Similar to the idea of people needing to yell at us. Like, I remember walking down the street one time and they're like, "Can you hear me now?" Like, yelling. And I'm like, "Why are you yelling?" I said, "Yes, I can hear you." You know, most people who are blind and visually impaired are not deaf or hard of hearing, so there's no need for anybody to yell. But going back to the language point, it is okay to use see and watch and other visual references. I think the only visual reference I don't really care for is somebody saying, "It's over there," and then they point to something, and I'm like, I don't know where over there is, but, you know, yeah, and I actually lifted up my hand. For those who can't see in the video, I pointed up and, like, ahead of me. But, yeah, like, people do it all the time. It's ridiculous. I'm like, can you give me directions? And that's a huge point. And that leads into, like, how this is correlating to my practice as a witch. So a lot of times in paganism and witchcraft, a lot of the books and the books and other items, you know, guided meditations, visualizations, energy work, they all have visual references, right? Most of the time it's visualize a white light, or imagine a white light, or imagine a tree or a forest or whatever. You know, grounding exercises are a good example. Luckily, though, I mean, most of those things are pretty straightforward. That being said, it can be difficult for some people. For myself, it's not too difficult. I find those things okay. The only time I think I've really struggled is certain exercises where they mention like shapes or something. Sometimes I'm just not really good at like complicated shapes, but I'm okay. Like circles and stuff is fine. But, you know, if someone is really struggling with the visual aspects of things, you know, use a different sense, like feeling the breeze, and most guided meditations do that, but it just depends. You know, use a different sense, or use all of those senses put together. So when I do visualization, I talk about this in a blog post, and I'll link that blog post below, and I will do the video on that post a little later. But I do all my senses, so I'll focus on my residual vision, I'll focus on the white light, but I'll also focus on the sensation of like feeling the warmth of that white light, and feeling the forest, or the sounds, the air. Sorry for my stuffiness there. That being said, like, all those things can be used. Energy work, raising energy. Oftentimes, some people like to imagine, like a shield or shielding work. I'm gonna rub my eye because my eye's all watery. Allergies, they suck. I digress. You know, talking about shielding and energy work, people like to be like, imagine this big barrier, imagine a blue flame or something. And that's totally a valid thing. You can say all those things. Now, if somebody outright says to you, because most people will say, like, I don't know what that looks like, or something like that, then, like I said, use a different sense. Imagine, like, I don't know, I like to, sometimes when I do shielding techniques, I like to imagine sort of this big wall, and sometimes I'll use colors. It just depends. If I want something that is really protective, I might use a wall of obsidian, or a crystal I've worked with before, or using an image of something I have like visually seen before from my point of view, maybe like a glass wall or a stone wall. Um, those are just some examples. And a good example of this too, relating to colors, and I have a whole blog post on color magic, and that will be a whole topic coming up. But I do use color magic quite a bit, so I will use colors in the energy work and visualization work. So all of these things kind of come together when it comes to the language that you use. You can use colors, you can use visual imagery. It's just a matter of the person that you're speaking with and whether or not that works for them. For me, that would totally work fine. The only thing I might lose is just concentration sometimes with visualization, but anybody can lose that. So don't be afraid to say things like, oh, did you watch, Squid Game yet? Or, I mentioned Squid Game in the blog post. I've not seen Squid Game yet, but I'm going to watch it. There's a good example. Or have you seen anything else? I went to the movies, or, I watched this movie, the new James Bond movie, for example, or something like that. It's okay to use those phrases, those languages, everyday language. And this brings me to my next point, independent travel. Oftentimes people talk to me about traveling as a blind person. I use a white cane. So people think I'm lost all the time. People think I'm legitimately lost, or they think I don't know where I'm going. And rest assured, I know where I'm going. Rest assured, if I'm really lost, I'm going to ask you for help. But people need to keep in mind, and I didn't mention this in the blog post, but I had planned on doing so. Everyone gets lost. Period. Everybody. Even if you see, you take the time to map out the area. You focus on landmarks, right? You focus on, okay, so what does this sign say and what's across the street, right? You might focus on, oh, it's next to the coffee shop on the corner, right? It's next to the cafe on the other side, and across the street is the bank, across the other, and on the opposite side is the this other coffee shop on the other corner, whatever. You focus on billboards, you focus on, visual things, right? Visually impaired people, or people who are visually impaired or blind, will focus on other things. It will just use their other senses. We're not using our extreme amazing hearing because that doesn't exist. We focus on our senses more awareness. It's an awareness thing, right? So we're focusing on maybe that coffee shop has music playing. So cool. When we hear that coffee shop, we're going in the same direction that we were always going. Maybe we're learning that area and we're going, okay, what's around? All right, cool. When I pass this coffee shop with, the Italian theme in it and it has Italian music playing, then I know that the store I'm looking for is two shops up, or maybe one shop up, or maybe it's across the street from the bank, and the bank has people coming in and coming out and using the ATM. So when I hear the ATM, I know I'm going to the store across the street. Maybe I cross at that bank, maybe I don't. But rest assured, we use these little things, these landmarks, these points of reference that people use just in a more auditory sense, in a more tactile sense. Maybe I pass by these carpeted, how some laundromats have those carpets in the area. Maybe there's a laundromat right there, and maybe I pass that carpet. Cool. Now I hear the music coming up ahead, so I know I'm heading to the coffee shop. And maybe there's another hairdresser along the way. I'll smell the hairdresser's like stuff, or I'll smell acetone because there's a nail shop. Whatever the case may be, it's just using different senses. And this, can be turned into a whole other thing too. I mean, travel is one of those things that I like to emphasize, because if I don't know where I'm going, if I truly didn't know where I was going, I wouldn't be, learning the area. Or if I did know where I was going, I would be sure to pay attention to what I'm learning around me. And if I really need help, I'm going to ask. And, I've had instances where people just flat out be like, "You're going the wrong way." I was walking somewhere, I had food in my hand, walking along, and before I hit the table to, sit down or whatever. And mind you, when somebody uses a cane and they, tap a table or they tap something, that doesn't mean they're hitting it. That doesn't mean that they're going to run into it. The white cane is used to detect obstacles in the area. So if I'm looking for a table and I have food in one hand and drink in one hand, cane in the other, and I'm walking and I tap a table and I go, "Cool, there's a table. I can sit down. I can put my food down, sit down, like any other person." I'm not going to hit that table because my cane has already told me that the table is in front of me. What if there was an obstacle? Let's say there was a sign. If I hit that sign, that tells me that there's an obstacle in front of me and I need to move either left or right, or I need to move around it just to get by and get back to my same direction of travel. And before I went to that area where I was carrying food and everything, I had nothing in front of me. Somebody actually said, like, "You're going the wrong way." And I said, "I'm not going the wrong way. I mean, how do you know where I'm going?" And, they didn't know. And I explained to them, this is how I travel. This is how I get around. So if you see somebody walking around, even if they're walking up and down the block, that might mean that they're learning that block. And if they do it more than once, maybe they're really learning that block inside and out. And if you really do believe that someone is lost, please just, offer assistance. Be like, "Hey, are you okay? Or do you need help?" And if they say no, be mindful of that. Don't follow them. Because I have had an instance where someone did follow me after I told them I'm fine and I'm thank you, I know where I'm going. And they did follow. So don't, I know you want to help and I appreciate that, but don't follow someone. That's very, very disheartening and rather scary for many people. And it's not okay to follow anyone. And just ask people. If they don't need help, just let it be. They're okay. They know what they're doing. And this relates to my practice because I need to know where I'm going to meet people, right? Let's say I'm practicing in a coven or I'm seeking a coven. I need to know where that coven is meeting, right? Let's say they're meeting in multiple places. I need to figure out my way there. And maybe that process is going to that area before I get there. Maybe learning the layout of where we're going to hold our ritual or cast our spell. Maybe I need to know where something is. And this relates to directions. So if I'm learning a new technique or I'm in circle with someone, I don't want to be like disrupting the whole circle or disrupting the whole flow of everything, saying like, "Oh, where is this or where is that?" I want to be sure that I know where it is. So people need to be aware of how to give directions. So, this candle is, to the left of the cauldron, or, west from our point of view might be to the right instead of to the left. And I'll need to know that information. So if I'm calling a quarter, I'm calling west, I need to be able to know where that is. And, giving directions is part of that. And also, learning techniques, energy raising, calling quarters, or even just finding the center of a space might be a little trickier if I've never been to it. So these are just some examples, but I can go into all kinds of other examples, like finding the area that I'm not only working in, but also finding the space that I might be calling the quarter in. Maybe it's a really open area and it's a little disorienting, because sometimes it is. If it's really open air and you have no idea which way is what and you have no reference point, going back to like the references, like a tree or something, maybe getting directions from someone can help, or using a compass. In my case, I might use a compass before I go. But either way, I need to know where I'm going, and in doing so, that's where, independent travel and walking around helps, and learning the area before I go. And let's say they change areas. Maybe they're practicing in someone's place, and that place is different from where we were before, and the directions are different. So learning those directions and learning where I'm going and all those things, and asking for help is okay too. I would definitely ask. I could also mention, if I'm going to a particular gathering and I want to know the ritual beforehand, it might help. Maybe I'm doing a specific part not just calling quarters or anything like that. Maybe I'm setting up the altar and they want specific things in specific places. I need to know where A, the altar is, and B, where they want everything. So those are just a few examples. I hope that in sharing this, it has helped you understand from my perspective, and also just kind of giving you an idea of what it's like to be blind and visually impaired. I hope that this helped you. I hope to do more of these videos soon. Hope you all are well. If you like what you see, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Hope you all are well, and speak to you soon.